Yes, Tempo. The story around the market yesterday, the stock market, just provided a bit of the headline figures. Just take it away from here. What else make the headlines yesterday from the equity side, stock market to be precise?
Yeah, so we're beginning to see a lot of the blue chip stocks now at multi-year lows. The second, you mentioned the fact that the industrial goods sector was the worst hit yesterday by 3.34%, and the second largest stock in that segment is now at 54% losses, and that's like trading at 20 naira 70 kobo or thereabout, which represents its 9-year lows at the 9 months lows rather as we speak right now. And that is WAPCO that we're talking about, is the next in line to Dangote Cement. It was also the one of the major worst performers yesterday in the market, dragging that sector, the industrial goods sector yesterday. So like I said, we've been seeing a lot of these companies trading at their multi-year lows, one of them being what we have in the consumer goods segment now, Honeywell Flour. Remember a few days ago, bakers, made a comment around increasing the price of bread, loaves generally. That's as a result of what we're seeing in the flour and sugar segments of the market at large. The oil and gas sector too was down 72 basis points. We brought the as a result of some losses in Forte Oil by 7.41%. So that's what we're saying. In terms of the energy markets, you've got less movements generally, just 3 basically in corn oil, which declined 9.88% yesterday. Forte Oil, like I said, down by 7.41%. Look at Japol. This sort of zigzag trading we've been seeing in Japol in recent times, down yesterday by 4.35% after 3.19 million units of shares were exchanged by investors on that stock. But look at the price, it's just 22 kobo away from 26 kobo that it has been trading since we got into the month of September. For all other stocks in the energy segment of the market, unchanged, no trading till date. That's the level of sentiment we've seen. Over to the NASD OTC, we're seeing a bit of gains again by 18 basis points. We saw the USI, the index there, moving back to 695.94 points. Again, the market capitalization was 470.96 billion naira. We saw decline in the level of volume, decline in the value of the volume traded by about 200%, and decline in the number of deals yesterday at 16. That was 27%, and that's as a result of the 16 deals that was recorded yesterday. In terms of companies moving there, you've got volume exchanged on Ensure PLC, which is an insurance company, and you got Union Bank Properties, a real estate, as well as Mastcom yesterday on that side of the market. For the fixed income side of things, let's begin with bonds, where we saw proceedings being bearish yesterday. Yields rose by 16 basis points on average to 15.28%. You got sell pressure across the short, mid, and long ends of the curve. On the screen, you've got one of the securities that had the expansions there as a result of the sell-off. You got March 2036, which now traded at 82 naira 50 kobo basically, and you had just 7 deals there. You got the June 2019, which also rose by 63 basis points. And February 2028 has been seeing sort of entry and exit of investors on that. But generally, yields broke the 15.5% mark yesterday, twice this week so far. Actually, we've seen it at the long end of the curve, where investors actually sold off on the two-year bonds in the market up to 14.69%. Tells you what is going on as a result of the expectations in terms of inflation, the election spendings, which is now beginning to probably give rise to inflation, and the fact that we are beginning to bottom out of the base effects in terms of reading the inflation numbers, which is expected to be released this afternoon by 12 noon, as earlier said. You look at the T-bill segment, you got CBN offering 350 billion naira worth of OMO bills at the auction this week, and you got sales really recorded across the different tenors that was announced and auctioned. But generally, at the secondary side of things, we saw bearish sentiment yesterday. You got average yields rising 73 basis points to 14.03%, and you also saw sell-offs at the 28th-day to maturities, where we saw expansion by 153 basis points. You got the 161-day to maturity also seeing expansion by 107 and 189-day. So generally, you've got sell-offs in these areas, which led to expansions at the short end of the curve, as well as the long end of the curve. 79 basis points basically for the short end of the curve, and 72 basis points expansion for the long end of the curve. And at the end of the day, where you have this bond, this securities tradable, FMDQ02C, we saw a 978 number of deals yesterday, worth 255 billion naira in terms of treasury bills alone, Bosun.
Temple, just a quick one before we wrap up this segment. It looks like if you look back at that treasury rates, the rates seem to be heading higher. We're looking at close to 15%, 14.85% for treasuries maturing 11th of October. If you look at those dated bills, 11th October, 18th and the 25th of October, all these are heading towards 15%. This is a serious bearish sentiment. Investors there getting concerned about the environment, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that also explains the cost of borrowing, as that the regulators have been very, very reluctant about. But basically, you often have to hit the trade-off breaker by yielding to the yearnings of your investors. Otherwise, you're going to have a total flight of offshore investors and reluctance, heavy one, on the part of the domestic investors. So basically, you just have to reach a truce with these investors, and that's why we're seeing this high level of cost of borrowing at this. And investors have even projected that this is going to continue. This also explains the reason why we're seeing sort of divestment from equities to the fixed income markets, because the yields are rising and it is more attractive to corporates, investors. It's more attractive to the retail investors. If you've got your money in equities, that the prices are continuing to decline in recent times, what you want to do is to look for more.
We've got to leave it at that particular point. Thank you very much, Temple Ashaju, live from the Nigerian Stock Exchange studios there. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. We'll talk a little bit more about the world of fintech with all these tries being made recently. Now we have the regulators on the same page with the big boys in the world of fintech. Let's talk about